What if I told you that one simple lie destroyed a boy's entire life, and the same girl who ruined him ended up becoming the person he loved the most? But that's not even the real twist, because the real twist comes later, when he discovers the girl he fell in love with was never human to begin with. Tonight's story is filled with mystery, psychological mind games, dark secrets, love, fear, and twists that will completely mess with your head. So don't skip a single minute, because by the end of this story, nothing will feel real anymore. The story begins in Chicago, a quiet city at night, rain falling, streetlights flickering, cars slowly moving through empty roads, and somewhere in that city lived a normal college student named Adrian. Adrian wasn't rich. He didn't have a perfect life. No big friend group, no exciting future, just a simple guy trying to survive. During the day, he attended college. At night, he worked at a grocery store to pay rent. His life was painfully ordinary. Until one rainy night, everything changed. It was almost midnight. Adrian had just closed the store and started walking home. The streets were nearly empty. Rain poured heavily across the sidewalks. Then suddenly, he noticed someone sitting near the corner of the road. A girl, completely soaked in rain, her hands trembling, her face filled with fear. Adrian slowly walked closer. "Hey, are you okay?" The girl slowly looked up, and the moment Adrian saw her eyes, something felt wrong. They were beautiful, but terrifying at the same time, like she was hiding something impossible. Then, in a soft, broken voice, she whispered, "Please, take me away from here." Adrian hesitated for a second, but eventually, he brought her back to his apartment. He gave her dry clothes, warm food, and a safe place to stay. But the entire night, the girl kept staring toward the window, like someone was watching her, like someone was coming for her. The next morning, Adrian finally asked, "Who are you?" But the girl stayed silent, then quietly said, "If I tell you the truth, you'll die too." That should have been Adrian's warning, but instead, he stayed. The girl introduced herself as Ella. Days slowly passed, and somehow, Ella started living with Adrian. At first, things felt normal, almost peaceful, but little by little, Adrian noticed strange things about her. Ella never went outside during the daytime. She never used a phone, never contacted anyone. And the creepiest part? She had no identity, no social media, no records, no ID. It was like she didn't exist. One night, Adrian suddenly woke up around 3 a.m. and froze. Ella was standing beside his bed, just staring at him. Not blinking, not moving, just watching him silently in the dark. Adrian's heart started pounding. Then suddenly, Ella began crying and whispered, "Please, don't leave me alone." Something about her felt broken, not evil, just deeply damaged. So Adrian ignored the fear and comforted her. But deep inside, questions were beginning to grow. A few days later, a disturbing story spread across campus. 3 people had mysteriously disappeared, and according to witnesses, all 3 were last seen with the same girl. A pale girl with dark eyes. A girl who looked exactly like Ella. Adrian felt cold all over, but he forced himself to believe. No, Ella would never hurt anyone. At least, that's what he wanted to believe. But that same night, Adrian secretly followed her, and what he saw changed everything. At 2 a.m., Ella walked into an abandoned building outside the city. Several people were already waiting there, all dressed in black, standing around a strange symbol painted on the floor, like some kind of ritual. Then one of the men spoke. "Bring her back," She's been hiding too long. Adrian hid behind a broken wall, trying to listen. Then suddenly, Ella slowly turned her head and looked directly at him. Adrian's blood froze. There was no way she could have seen him. The room was nearly pitch black, but somehow, she knew he was there. Then Ella smiled softly and whispered, "I warned you not to follow me." Suddenly, every person in the room started moving toward Adrian. Fast, too fast. Adrian panicked and ran for his life. He sprinted through empty streets while footsteps chased him in the darkness, and after barely escaping, he rushed to the police station, breathing heavily, terrified. But what the police told him next was even worse. An old officer quietly opened a dusty file. Inside was a photograph of Ella, but the photo was dated 1989, more than 35 years ago. Adrian stared in disbelief, because Ella looked exactly the same. Not older, not different, exactly the same. Adrian's voice shook. "How is this possible?" The old officer looked at him carefully, then replied, "Because that girl isn't human." Adrian almost laughed. It sounded insane. But the officer continued, "For over 30 years, every town she appears in, people disappear. And everyone who gets too close to her either goes insane or ends up dead." Adrian couldn't breathe properly anymore. Everything suddenly felt unreal. Who was Ella? What exactly had he brought into his home? Adrian returned to his apartment late that night and found Ella sitting alone in darkness, crying. She looked terrified, broken. Then softly she said, "I never wanted to hurt you." Adrian finally snapped, "Who are you?" Silence filled the room. Then slowly, Ella finally told him the truth. Back in the 1950s, a secret organization began experimenting on humans. Powerful, wealthy people obsessed with defeating death. They wanted immortality. Most of the test subjects died, but one survived. Ella. The experiments changed her forever. She stopped aging. Couldn't die. But something else changed too. Something dark awakened inside her. People around her slowly started dying, disappearing, losing their minds. And the same organization that created her had been hunting her ever since, because Ella was their biggest mistake. Suddenly, Adrian understood everything. Ella wasn't running away from people. She was hiding from the world, hiding from herself. But then came the biggest twist of all. Adrian discovered Ella never killed anyone. The secret organization had been kidnapping those people themselves. And now, Adrian became their next target, because he knew too much. That night, the city turned into chaos. Cars chasing them through dark streets, people hunting them, hidden cameras everywhere. No one could be trusted anymore. And somewhere during all the madness, Adrian realized something terrifying. He still loved her, even after knowing the truth, even after seeing how dangerous she was. And for the first time in years, Ella smiled genuinely, because Adrian was the first human being who didn't see her as a monster. But the ending was heartbreaking. The organization finally found them inside an abandoned factory, and they tried taking Ella back by force. That's when, for the first time, Ella stopped holding back. The entire building began shaking violently. Lights exploded. Glass shattered everywhere. People were thrown across walls like rag dolls. Adrian stepped backward in horror, because Ella no longer looked human. Her eyes turned completely black. The air around her felt dark, wrong, terrifying. Then suddenly, Ella looked at Adrian one last time and softly whispered, "If I stay, everyone dies." Adrian screamed, "Don't go." But Ella smiled sadly and said, "You were the first person. Whoever made me feel human. Then suddenly, boom! A massive explosion consumed the entire building, fire everywhere, smoke filling the sky. The next morning, police searched through the ruins, but they only found Adrian alive. Ella's body was nowhere to be found. Everyone assumed she was dead. But the story doesn't end there. 6 months later, Adrian stood alone at a crowded train station. People rushing past him, trains arriving, voices echoing everywhere. Then suddenly, he saw her, standing far away in the crowd. Same face, same eyes. Ella, she smiled softly at him, then disappeared into the crowd forever. Adrian stood frozen, and in that moment, he realized something. Some people, some love stories, never truly end. If you made it this far, comment Ella below, and subscribe to Sid PlotTube for more mind-blowing emotional stories.